Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to get the new 430 GPS that is in the new X-Plane 10.30 beta into the Carenado C90B aircraft. And not only am I going to show you how to get the GPS into the aircraft, I'm also going to show you how to remap the texture so that you get the GPS in full resolution on the 3D cockpit, so you can actually use it from within the cockpit. By default, if you just put in the new GPS, you're only going to see a fraction of the screen on the cockpit, basically just the radio frequencies, and you need to actually use the 2D pop-up to actually use the GPS and see anything on it. So this technique will actually let you see the entire GPS in full resolution on the cockpit. Now I'm going to do this on the C90B because this is the only Carenado aircraft that I own that has a GPS in it. In theory, you should be able to use the same techniques to do this on any of the other aircraft, but I don't have any experience doing that. So before we get started, there's a few things you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need the X-Plane 10.30 beta and then Plane Maker, which of course comes with X-Plane. And then you're also going to need another piece of software called AC3D, which you can get at inaviz.com. I think that's how you pronounce it. And there is a 14-day free trial of this software that'll work just fine. Once the free trial is up, this technique will no longer work because it does rely on plugins, and the plugin functionality goes away after the free trial is up. So you're either going to want to do this within the 14-day free trial, or you'll need to purchase this software. So in addition to this software, you'll also need the X-Plane plugins for AC3D, which there are links from the AC3D site that you can navigate with, but eventually you'll end up on the X-Plane Scenery Tools page that has the downloads for the AC3D X-Plane plugin. Now it says it's for AC3D 6.1. That's actually for 6.1 or higher. I think the current version is, 7.2 something. But these plugins work fine. Once you download the appropriate plugin, you will basically just copy those files into the plugins directory in AC3D folder. So you'll basically have a couple X-Plane support files here. Once you've got that done, you are all ready to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go into our X-Plane install and into our aircraft folder and wherever you have the aircraft located, and we're going to duplicate that. We want to be working on a copy. We don't want to work on the original just in case you screw something up, or if you want to go back and fly the original that's got the older GPS. Always want to work on a copy. So we're going to make a quick duplicate of the entire folder. And it'll take a minute here to do. I apologize, I'm running off a USB hard drive, so it's a little slower than what I typically do. So, okay, now that this is copied, I'm going to go ahead and rename this something like a new GPS, just so I know what this is. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to load up Plane Maker. And again, that comes with X-Plane and should be located inside your X-Plane folder. So we'll go ahead and get this loaded up. And we're going to do a couple things in here. The first thing we're going to do is activate the new GPS. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to modify the included texture map so that the full display of the new GPS will work. Okay, now we've got it loaded up, and since I was already working on this aircraft before, it's already loaded up, but typically you'll want to go to File and then Open, and you'll want to navigate to the new GPS version that we put in here, the copy, and you'll want to load up the version 10 of the aircraft. So we'll go ahead and open that. So once this is loaded up, okay, so it's loaded up. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Standard, and then we're going to go down to Systems. Now under the General tab, there's an FMS GPS area, and this is where we're going to tell it to use the new GPS. In this particular aircraft, there's only one GPS installed, and it's on the pilot side. So under pilot, we're just going to say use the modern capable GPS. Now, if you're doing this on one of the aircraft that has two GPSs, you'll want to do this both on the pilot and the co-pilot side. But for the C90B, the pilot side is the one we want. So we're going to go ahead and close this window. And in theory, technically, this is all you have to do to get the new GPS operational in the C90B. If we save this back out and loaded up the C90B in X-Plane 10.30 beta, you are going to have the new GPS in the cockpit. But again, you're not going to see the display in full resolution. You're not going to see the whole display on the screen. You're going to have to click on the screen to pop out the 2D display to actually use the GPS. So we want to see it in the full resolution. So we're going to go back here to standard, and then we're going to go down to panel 3D. Okay. And over here on the right hand side, you'll see a bunch of things listed. We're going to select the Garmin 430, and you don't see anything right now, but if we scroll down with the scroll bars, you'll see the 430. You'll also see some other textures in here that might look kind of familiar. And if we scroll around, basically this scrollable area is the entire texture map. Let's go ahead and zoom out on this a little ways so you can see what we're talking about. So this is basically the entire texture map. In this particular aircraft, you'll see there's lots of empty space around here, and this is what we like to see to be able to do this. Other aircraft, this may be more crowded, and this may be a little more difficult to do. In general, what we want to do is we need to make this GPS texture 4 times the size that it is currently, because the new GPS is at 4 times the resolution as the old GPS is. So we're going to go back over here to the GPS, and with it selected, we're going to go down below where it says size. We're going to simply change that to 4. Now you see that the size is increased, but we've got a couple problems. First of all, it's cut off on the left side of the texture, and second, it's overlapping a bunch of the other textures. So this is where the problem comes into play. So what we want to do is we want to move this somewhere, and it really doesn't matter where you move it as long as it's not overlapping with other textures and not interfering with other textures, and as long as you keep it within the borders of this particular texture. So again, if you've got 2 of these GPSs in your aircraft, you'll need to resize both of them and move them down. You'll also notice when we have this selected, there's a co-pilot checkbox down here. Now, since this is the pilot GPS, we do not have that checked. If this was the co-pilot GPS, or if you had 2 of them, one of them you would need to have that co-pilot checkbox checked. But in this case, all we needed to do was size this up 4 times and move it to an empty space, and we're pretty much done. We're going to go ahead and save this, and I click on this icon, but I don't know if it really does much. So we're going to go back out here, and we're going to go to File, and then we're going to go down to Quit, and it's going to ask us if we want to save this, and we're saving it in the new GPS, and we're going to say yes, we want to save it. So now we have saved the aircraft file with the new GPS in it. Now, if we navigate into this folder and into the cockpit 3D and into panels, you'll see there's a panel.png file. This is the texture that's used to map everything on the panel. But if we preview this texture, you'll see that it is empty. That happens to be just the way that a lot of aircraft do it, where this panel is kind of a stand-in ping that's empty and all the other ping files get put into place. Well, this is not really helpful for us when we want to use it for placement to remap the texture map to the new GPS. Luckily, X-Plane, and in conjunction with the plugins that work with AC3D, has us covered here with a unique feature that's built in. So now that we've moved the panel and modified the texture map, we are going to actually load up X-Plane. So we'll go ahead and get X-Plane loaded up. All right, and Now you'll notice we've got a couple C90s in here. If you look down here, you can see what the path to it is. And so if we click on this one, you can see this is the new GPS one. Make sure you're doing it on the new GPS one and load the version 10 of the aircraft. And we'll go ahead and get this loaded up. Okay, so now that we've got our plane loaded up, what we need to do is get a preview of the panel texture, and X-Plane has a function built in to do this. So if you're on a Mac, you hold down Command Option Shift Space. That's it. If you're on a Windows, it'll be Control Alt Shift Space. I'm assuming Linux is probably also Control Alt Shift Space, but I'm not sure on that. But basically what that does is if we go into our X-Plane folder, and back to our aircraft, and back to our panels, you can see that it's created this panel preview.ping file automatically. And if we preview that, you'll see that it actually has the textures in it, which is exactly what we wanted. Fortunately, you don't even have to rename it or do anything. The AC3D X-Plane plugins will automatically find it. So we're going to go ahead and quit X-Plane because we're done with X-Plane for right now. And now we're going to load up AC3D. So we'll pull this up. And we're going to go to File, Import. And as long as you have the X-Plane plugins loaded, down here you will see X-Plane 8 object file. We're going to select that. And then we're going to make sure we've navigated to our new GPS, to the correct aircraft folder. And then the object we're looking for is this V10 cockpit object. Make sure you don't get the version 9, but we want the version 10. So we're going to load this in, which will take a short time here. This imports it from X-Plane. And voila, you've got this object in here. Now I'm just going to click out here to deselect everything. And in this top view up here, I'm going to zoom in. And as I zoom in, the wireframe, it should start looking a little more like a cockpit. So as we get closer here, you can tell this is the Avidyne. And let's move this up a bit. This is the 430 GPS right there. So I'm going to go up here and click on this second icon, which is Select by Object. And I'm going to click on the screen, and that will select the object. And basically, these related things are one object. So we've got the GPS selected, and then I'm going to go up to I'm going to go up to Tools, and then Texture Coordinate Editor. And if I zoom out a bit, you can see there's our new GPS texture that we resized and moved. Here is the original GPS over here. So the old texture was this small and here. Again, I'm going to click over here to deselect. Then I'm going to draw a marquee around the GPS to make sure I have everything selected. And I'm just going to move it over on top of our GPS texture. I'm then going to zoom in a little bit. And basically what we're going to try to do is we want to get the screen area of the object, which is this rectangle here, to be resized and aligned with the screen here. So I'm going to select that object, and if you hold down the Control key and drag on one of these corner icons, it's going to resize the object proportionally. So we're just going to resize, and just going to eyeball this a little bit and then move it around. And looks like we can go up just a little bit more. And move it around. And this isn't perfect. I'm not going to take the time to get it exactly perfect, but you get the idea. I mean, you can kind of get it as perfect as you want to get it. That's pretty close. So what I'm going to do now is close this window, and then we're going to File, Export, and we're going to export it as an X-Plane 8 object file. And we're going to make sure we're in our new GPS folder, which we should be, and we're going to save it right on top of the V10 cockpit object. So we're going to save that and replace it with the new one, and we're done. So we do not want to save changes. Now, theoretically, we're all done. So what I should only have to do now is load up X-Plane again. Okay, and again, make sure we're loading the new GPS version 10. There's our GPS, and I'm going to turn the battery on, and you can see the GPS load up. And let's just make sure we've got the new GPS. If we click on the window, there's the 2D pop-up. There's our flight plan stuff. So we're definitely in the new GPS, right? And here's the real test. Let's go on down here. And there it is. In the full resolution, you've got a working new GPS in your 3D cockpit. So as simple as that. So hopefully that will help you get it into the C90B. And again, as long as you follow these same techniques, you should be able to do this into just about any X-Plane aircraft, as long as the texture file has enough room for you to get these in place. So hope you enjoyed this and hope it helped.